My name is Mike. I'm 22 years old, living in a small town. I dropped out at 15 and have been hustling ever since. Life's been tough, and money is always tight. To pay rent and cover my living expenses, I often take odd jobs from a gig app, mostly cleaning. It was just a regular Thursday night. I was at home, eating pizza, drinking beer, and watching TV. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a new gig notification from the app. The job seemed simple but kind of strange. Just clean the basement of an old house in the suburbs, nothing else. The most attractive part was the pay, $300, which was 3 times what I usually made for a similar job. The client's requirements were that I arrive before midnight, work alone, and leave right after. I frowned. A job like this usually meant trouble, but I couldn't afford to say no. After thinking for a few seconds, I decided to take it. I drove my beat-up old car, following the GPS towards the suburbs. The further I went, the more remote it became. There were almost no streetlights, and only my car's headlights lit up the narrow road ahead. Eventually, I stopped in front of a rundown house. The house looked really old. Most of the windows were boarded up, except for a small basement window with a faint yellow glow. The whole scene looked eerie. I took a deep breath and pushed open the front door. It wasn't locked, like it had been left open just for me. As soon as I stepped in, a damp, moldy smell hit me. The house was silent, like no one had lived there for a long time. On the table in the entryway was a note. The key to the basement is hanging on the kitchen wall. Finish cleaning and leave immediately. Payment in 10 minutes. No name, no other information. I felt uneasy, but with that kind of money on the line, I tried not to overthink it. I walked into the kitchen. It was dark, and it took me a while to find the key. Then I headed to the basement door. The basement door was heavy and creaked loudly when I opened it. The stairs were narrow and creaky. Each step groaned under my weight. I turned on the basement light. It was dim and flickering, casting deep shadows everywhere. The room looked strange, with dust and broken pottery scattered all over the floor. There were a few paintings on the walls that looked like religious symbols. The whole place gave me a creepy feeling. I told myself, just finish up and get out of here. I started cleaning quickly, vacuuming the dust and tidying up the clutter. Just as I was cleaning the old mirror in the middle of the room, I suddenly heard a faint thump from upstairs, like someone stepping on the floor. I froze, ears straining, but there was nothing more. I reassured myself it was just the old house settling. I kept cleaning the mirror, but my mind couldn't stop thinking about that noise. A little later, as I was about to pack up and leave, my phone rang. I checked the screen. It was the client's number. I sighed in relief, thinking they were just checking in. "Hello," I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. There was silence for a moment. Then a low, raspy voice said,
"The mirror in the basement. Don't touch it."
"Who are you? Why?" Before I could finish, the line went dead. A chill ran down my spine, and my palms started to sweat. I turned to look at the mirror. Something seemed to flicker inside it. Then I heard heavy footsteps upstairs, like someone dragging something. I shivered, my hand starting to shake. No one should be upstairs. The client said only the basement needed cleaning. But those footsteps sounded so real. I decided to check if someone was playing a prank or if I was just hearing things. At the top of the stairs, I saw the lights in the living room flickering, like there was an electrical problem. I hesitated, but I gathered my courage and stepped into the living room. The lights flickered, and in between the flashes, I saw a slightly open door. There was a low murmuring coming from behind it, but I couldn't make out the words. I gently pushed the door open, and what I saw made me freeze in place. In the middle of the room was a rotting corpse, its pale face turned towards me, looking horrifying. Next to the corpse sat a woman, her long hair covering her face. She was mumbling something in a hoarse, broken voice.
"Are you here to keep me company?"
She suddenly lifted her head, her hollow eyes staring straight at me. My mind went blank, and I turned and bolted for the door. My hands were shaking, and I almost tripped. I reached the front door and pulled hard on the handle, but it was locked. I shook it with all my strength, but it wouldn't budge. Just then, I heard the woman's laughter from upstairs, cold and sharp, cutting through the silence. "You can't run," her voice suddenly whispered right next to my ear, but no one was around me. I pounded on the door, sweat dripping from my forehead, my whole body nearly collapsing. Then I suddenly remembered there was a window in the basement. Maybe I could escape from there. I rushed down to the basement, almost jumping down the stairs. As I reached the basement, the old mirror came into view again. This time, there was a blurry figure in it, a woman's face staring at me, her lips twisted into an eerie smile. I didn't hesitate any longer. I pushed open the small basement window and scrambled out, not even noticing the cut on my arm from the window frame. I stumbled onto the road, the night wind biting cold, but for the first time, I felt safe. I turned back to look at the house, and all the lights were off, like everything had been an illusion. My heartbeat slowly calmed down, and I was just about to drive away when my phone buzzed with a new message: "Job complete. Payment transferred." I checked my account. The money was indeed there. I started the engine, trying to calm myself, telling myself it was all over. But the unease wouldn't leave me. Then, in the rearview mirror, I saw her, sitting in the back seat, smiling eerily. She whispered,
Where you go, I go.
Then she let out a terrifying laugh. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly turned around, only to find the back seat empty. Since that night, I never took another late-night cleaning job.